So hearts, Shirnipo?
Yes, please, you.
With the Heart Sutra in English beginning on page 2 of the prayers. Thus I've heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the 5 skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The 5 skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
Angelo de Tini Tini Onda Razeve Chini Dulu Chichi Ziji Niji Toga Lebanze Kanda Sibe Zura Mari Mendo Tune Jisi Jozo Gona Puji Dazi Yala Chuju Yangden Song Chudara Chido Nimo Nilo Leji Chado Juzeje Mari Mise Dunge Nyugo Chini Juzere Dena Dene Taji Saji Tazi Yonde Luzo Jesi Tugu Juda Judan Juni Din Dalu Mese Jambi Yang La Du Bazanadi
Om
Arabazanadi
Om
Arabazanadi
Sedem
Kenji Kenra Vesiji Talu Timo Membarazene Kada Denju Shonlo Dobayi Loju Bobe Nawa Zedosu
the short mandala offered on page 16. Swaji Koki
Choshin Medo Dang Rira Linshi Nindi Jimbade Sanji Shindon Mede Pyogayi Chugu Namda Shin La Ju Bara Sho
Jetsu Lama
Tamba Jinanji Chugu Kala Jindi Dindine Chidra Zambe Duje Zemala Sabji Chuji Chawa Abdus
Yadam Guru Ratna Mandala
Kaneya Dayami
the refuge prayer on page 22. Sanjay Chadam
Soji Chonala Chanchu Bado Dane Kyabzuji Tagi Jizuji Sonamji Chola Penji Sanji Chobarashu Sanji Chuna Soji Chonala Chanchu Bado Dane Kyabzuji Tagi Jini Sonamji Chola Penji Sanji Chobarashu
Sanjay
Chodang Tsoji Chonam La Chanju Meba
Dani Kapsuji
Dagi Jisu Jibi Sonam Ji Chola Penji Sanji Chobara Shu Olas Ta Katula Shushana Ti Genimala Shodan Jada Jimmy Chu the Isari Jibela Shira Meba someday you may decide
인베 걔가 대쇼아.
Lasso
얘티나라. 걔가 주면서 걔가니 뒤 슈그도 맵다가.
Those Tangata those Tagi Samare
다디 데르샤. 얘데던데 얘 따게베 배전된 얘 노스기로 왔다. 얘 따게베 수rim다다 셔러 섬제 인양엔 대신 도 데메비스 셔도도 고범미게 미시 사주 멜로니다 대도 저세야르지.
Odi Peti Las Tetro
더
Las Ale Ndenema Shisha
네, 네 패션 좋아입니다. 네 오기들이야. 패션데 네 연락 되지 제가 된다
Chendan Cherab Chedan
모두
Zundridan Sat
어디 딜레 됩니다. 이게나.
Las
다디 방에 넣으시 방에 등에 다 디캡션.
Pezi Di Sare Sajum Milun Yinda Tetub Sati Kisanga to Trotsar
나 어디 넣었어.
Petrosasha Dadene Jada Ngedi Jada Juminga de Shashota
나서긴.
Chendan Cherab Chedan Zundridan Gadan Shindo Jandan Dinzindan Danyon Didu Chanju Yinla De Nyange Dedo Jibi Yecho La Azrawa chanchuga yinla du ta chanchuga yinla du su de dega sore tonglam tonglam gi negab gi ani yinla du ndir wal odi
나서
tambu tik de ma ji sung sharon
나서 we can look at the textbook letter to friend, the verse 106. Verse 106, mindfulness, differentiating awareness of phenomena, perseverance, joy, essence of fitness, as a sense of fitness, observe conditions, and equanimity. So these 7 are the branch. In other words, the causes for the purified state. So here in this context, the purified state refers to the path of seeing or tonglam, and they are the network of constructive factors to bring about an attainment of nirvana.
오다 전당 가랑도 티버침부지 숑네 티버침부지 숑네라야 안에 데 저봐 가서 그래 장주초지 치 숨주자도 숨주섭도 여러와다 장조소도 장조소도 유바데 안에 람라야 자네 되네 데 가서 그래 다 템바 템바 니샤 신의 야지네 되네 데로와 템바 니샤 신의 야지네 되네 람소소소소라야 자주기와 근데 이들 좀 발라야 달라 전주의 연라 뒤인데 통람게 내가라 자바 임바여 다디 바기 파진나라 인도 통람게 내가라 야 전주의 연라 뒤인 자르와 다 될라야 전주의 연라 뒤인데 템바체 안에 템바체 셰럽체 준주체 가와체 안에 신장체
No.
템바체 셰럽체 준주체 가와체 띵이지
Down
신장 땅용 어디래샤 어디 듄디레스르와 다디 통람 내가블라 자고야 가르스나 통람 코나 통람원도 제디 통람원도 제네 다 통람기 통람 바제 메랑 코랑게 안에 디지기를 발라 코랑게 고게도 규베 빵자 통방되게 밥빵 발라야 안에 매도 메롱와게 안에 대송자 chanchuki yinla dun se nerwa medo merwa thonglang negala ya ta medo merwa ji thonglang ge yinla da bu o dinde ge chö dun yores o de chenpa che sherap che zunju che gawa che xinjiang che dingyi zin dangyum o de dun de re shas.
As we read earlier, the mindfulness, differentiating awareness of phenomena, perseverance, joy, joy, a sense of fitness in observed conditions, and equanimity. These 7 are the branch cause for the purified stage, which is the state of part of seeing, and they are the network of the constructive factors to bring about attainment of nirvana. So if you look at the texts in general, the Mahayana texts in general, we will find that 37 paths to enlightenment. And those 37 paths to enlightenment are divided into 10 sections. So each divided into the bhumis, each bhumis, the bodhisattva's bhumi. Out of bodhisattva's bhumi, there's 37 aspects. The 7 in the path of enlightenment is applied. It's applied in the first path, which is the path of seeing. And those 7 are, as we read earlier, first is mindfulness, differentiating awareness of phenomena, and perseverance, joy, concentration, equanimity, and physical and mental suppleness. And those are the 7 branches which actually bring about a path of seeing, which is which will be generated when one is in the path of seeing. So but those 7 factors are inevitable factors to avoid, to eliminate obscuration on the path of seeing. Because when you are enter into the path of seeing, you will enter into the path of seeing through the generation of of uninterrupted path. In other words, the uninterrupted path of seeing, the Bhajamulam. So uninterrupted path of seeing is the one that actually, becomes a remedy towards abandonment of the obscuration of the path of seeing. So in order to abandon or eliminate this path of obscuration to path of seeing, these 7 limb factors are inevitable factors in order for one to eliminate this obscuration on the path of seeing. That's all.
That's all. Dine yindi tsambala ya. Dine yindi tsambala ya nga zo tanda pechi tsolam negab tela. Chenpa nisha shidu tsolam negab la yinpa yi. Tati nga tsepa jingi kimi tu. Dine ya nga ramzo dewa yang tabe tsowa, yang tabe nga siya jiwa. Wato tsu tsama yang tsolam negab la jagi yunga yi. Tati tsepa jingi kimi tu. Kanda tanda digi chanchu yinla duyun di yinla sego ya kimzi karirisi na jina nga ramzo moda tabujila ya ane moda de ya chazang chi dotu baji chabala ane kholo dang tene nangi khalo koro ya da da tezo tsangma de moda yenla raba tena xin tonglam korang de de chue ngoma de che da tonglam korang ki ngoge ki pangja pangbala ya ane me do mero wagi tonglam ki yenla da maso na song zang tela ya ane yenla dunzi siki yore se da tela ya ane da de wane ma tuyong do ne ji yenla ngōnyi ji yenla sini, tā tini mā tiongki dhūrwa. Wata khurā yenla sikwa yadi moda la chāshabi na moda ji yakbo ji ya tsangpa la kholo da tsangpa tsangko wa na xin tonglam di moda na yinpa yina ane di chanchuk yenla duyun di wata kholo tsangko yadi res.
So in order for one to in order for one to perfect one's path of seeing, and those 7 factors are what is 7 factors are needed, without which one's path of seeing will not be perfected. So therefore, the path of seeing would not become a functional, in other words. Just as in order to have a perfect functional of car that we normally drive, and requires all kind of factors, or the limbs, or its parts and so forth, such as wheels, steering, engine, and so on and so forth. In the same manner, in order for this path of seeing become a perfect functional path, it requires its branches, or the factors that we mentioned earlier, the 7 factors. That's all.
tonglam sina konzoki ji pengi ji jigu chigi ina.
That's all.
Konzo las.
So Ken, Kishla is asking you, do you know what is meant by the path of seeing?
Yes. The path of seeing is the stage where one can stably ascertain the emptiness of phenomena.
Kela tisungdo, the Tongbani Nam Tongwana Tonglam Tobre Series, that Tongi Musum the second low.
Alelas.
Yes, save Sungomendo.
Las. Tereba. Ngaranzo jidang lamla mashu kone dunyi togi yore serwa. Ane yang ngola chanju ta tijimba chashabi na chanju sim maji kone dunyi togi yore susu jibu kadune. Ane chanju sim cha ne teje la dunyi togi yore. Tetabu ki dunyi togi kasa tuzu ki dunyi tangbo sardu togundu. Ane ta gyunze yangdala, ta yangdala tene dunyi to togurwa. Tende yidu dala tene dunyi to togu, dunyi tendabe dunyi tobe lo de jeba tsema reserwa, tokpa. Lo tokpa res te. Ta deshe dudu ji jabni na. Ta tene de kasa kore ta tozu mato degi marwa. De tsema te tozu mato gyula degi marwa. An tene ta tetabe kansa degi ta terchi kurwa. 돈이 도야 돼 숙취를 당야게 체도 안에 솔람게 내가 솔라야 아 솔람네 야체네 장네 안에 졸람러도 신내 두고 봐 신내 두고 봐 셈라 신내 두 아니 신내게 셈데 신내 야보 템보 정수나나 신내도 줍사수나 템보 정나 제일 맞죠 신내 줍사수나나 심 찌지가 미발라 찌지바 내바 타게 안에 안에 동반이라 바 제금 제네르와 심디 시원네바 대체 대안에 동반이라 제금 제원도 좀 말아야 아니 실라 송대기 띵이 통거로 봐 실라 송대기 띵이 진데 숙취를 치러 당오도 아니 졸람 저 서바 제모 최조스니야 다저 최조스도 졸람들시 저 서바 아니 제모 최조스니 다 최조를 레데도 좀 말아야 다 직림배 랑게 다 배대 토시를 될 레벨 봐다 되네 대실라 송지기 띵이즈데 빼야지 가서 그래 체 톰볼레 내려와 체 톰볼레 내되네 실라 송지기 띵이즈데 야지 빼체 톰볼레 온데 잠발아야 되네 간전 손에 안에 동반이디 또기데 로데 안에 또바 많이 봐 롱우 숨바기 라딜레 롱우 숨바기라 파 나란 쪽이 미기 셰바도 쪽이 바지 칭어보도도 통반하시 동반이디 무숨도 봐 통수나나 안텔레야 통람스기 요레스 통람스네 동이 무숨도 가두도스나 람텔레야 통람스네 아니 대답하기 동이 도게 가사데 아니 나라도 수수께 원래 파바선자 파바차주고 요레스
그래서
담망 붙였어
So now here, let's clarify what is meant by path of seeing here. Just mere having an ascertainment of emptiness alone is not make oneself of being on the path of seeing. It's not necessarily that one become an individual who is being on the path of seeing. So ascertainment of emptiness can be gained even before entering into the path, before generating bodhicitta, in other words. Speaking about, Mahayana point of view. So when we speak about ascertainment of part of attainments, ascertainment of the attainment of emptiness, there are of two kinds. One ascertainment take place through generic image, which is conceptual understanding of emptiness, which normally what is known as the inferential cognitive understanding of emptiness that can take place even before one enters into the path, even before generating bodhicitta. So as one have this understanding of emptiness through generic image, one's very understanding of this emptiness is based on reasoning. It is based on reasoning that you have generated this understanding of emptiness. That very wisdom, that understanding of that emptiness is what it is known as, again, inferential cognition of emptiness, which generated on the basis of perfect reasoning of emptiness. And having generated such understanding of emptiness, one then progress oneself on the path, on the path of accumulations, path of path of preparations, and so on. So when it comes to the path of preparation, and then there are also the four parts of path of preparations. The part of the worm to path, the first part of preparation is what is known as the worm to path of preparations, and part of preparation of forbearance, part of preparation of peak of part of preparations, and then supreme part of preparations. So all those, when one progresses on those four types of part of preparations, when one is on the last part of preparation, one will be able to accomplish, or one will be able to achieve what is called the unity of shamatha and the unity of shamatha and the vipassana, or in other words, or vipassana. By completing this, one will then, the very next step is that you will be able to generate the wisdom which understand emptiness intuitively, without depending on the reasonings. In other words, you gain the intuitive or the direct ascertainment of emptiness, and that is what we call someone has gained path of seeing, and such individual at the moment that the individual attains again such a state of attainment, then such individual is said to be an Arya being, or the noble being. That's what.
어디 동ning 송도 도베기 로델이야 아니 동남식 요래서 봐. 아니 된다버기 다 통람되기 아니 다 고서 고랑게 통람기 뭐게게 빵자 뉴몽지 빵고고 요래 뉴몽 군다다 렌지스니 니유변안에 군다스기 디파 빵고고 요래 봐. 다데 빵발라야 담보 통람데 동ning 무슨도 통바 또바자마도 지기 동ning 무슨도 도게게 가사되기 다 냠바샤스도 곰 잡에 카돌라야 동ning 무슨도 또버래. 다 동ning 무슨도 또바데 양양 곰바 체네 아니 다 생겨나게 뉴몽데 밤 해봐서 그러 봐. 아다 어디 매봐 써발라야 돈이 무슨 돈 통신바디 양양 건바 제발라야 아니 chanju가 연락 된데 거래스.
So when the individual is on the path of seeing, the individual should actively such individual will actively engaging in the meditation on emptiness in order to overcome, in order to eliminate the obscuration of path of seeing. In other words, Tongbang is obscuration of path of seeing, obscuration which need to be abandoned on the path of seeing. And when it comes to the obscurations, there are of two kinds. Intellectually occurred obscurations and innate obscurations. And these two must be abandoned when one is on the path of seeing. So it is through repeated concentration on emptiness, and such individual will then eventually be able to overcome those obscuration of path of seeing. So in order to completely eliminate this obscuration on the path of seeing, And such individual, what is needed is seven limb, the seven factors that we talked about earlier is needed. So without seven factors, such as mindfulness, differentiating awareness, and so forth, and such elimination of the path of seeing, or such obscuration cannot be eliminated on the path of seeing. That's all.
어다 텐데 이제 잠발이야 동남 내갑라야 되네 동이 곰대도 잠발 다 동반이 곰대도 아니 미대 네 강검이야기 미유 동반이디 밤 제마도야 돼 내기 연라 신데 템바데레서라 템바기 다 생원에 들어야 템바기 바 심바체네 다 동반이 다가라라 냠바 샤바마도 되네 치료도 집에 최신달을 주고 메서와 배낭 나란조 딩상 배디 칸도르게 저 가르치비나 템바게 말씀하신 셈 가사가라 쇼르고도 다 되디 동반이 고숨도 또베 로데게 돈이 될 미바다가라라 대야게 제도 안에 템바데기 맞지바지 미겐데 야티직도 야 샤투야 데 템바게 용거 여자 안에 내지 연라 안에 템바레스
So the first, the factor is the mindfulness, isn't it? The mindfulness is the functionality of the mindfulness on the path of seeing is that the mindfulness is that on the path of seeing, there's the mindfulness whereby one does not forget the object, the truth. In other words, it's emptiness. So without forgetting that emptiness, forgetting the object of meditation, which is emptiness, it's mindfulness needed. So, because for us as an ordinary practitioner, when we are engaging in any kind of practice, where one is reciting mantras or chanting and so forth, although one is verbalizing the chantings of the mantra, but while our mind is unable to focus, we're unable to, be mindful of what is being said and what is being expressed, what is being verbalized, the meaning of that is being verbalized. So when it comes to the path of seeing, it is completely different. When path of seeing, you are not only you are ascertaining the truth or the emptiness, but your very understanding of emptiness is actually, accelerate by the mindfulness so that you don't forget the object that is being meditated upon.
오늘 전에 비게 동반이 유도 전에 동반이 또기디 시럽들와 시럽 다 시바들 시럽시기로와데 동반이 롱고데 비게 제바 전에 안에 동이 무슨도 저 또기 거라 시럽 손자라야 안에 시럽들이야 뭐원이지 얘라 신으로와 뭐원이 있으나 거랑 베데 문에 다 떼버려 되시기로와 거랑 어디 떼버려데 얘라데 아니 시럽디 레스로와 시럽디게 가르치기래서나 아니 랑게 또제 유 동반이디 아니 이제 가서 그래 만노와 제네로와 콩 문지 제되기로와 제바체네 콩 문지 제되기서 시럽들이야 원이지 얘라스로와
So the next branch is the wisdom of perfect discernment with regard to the object, which is for perfect discernment. Wisdom of the perfect discernment here refers to the wisdom realizing emptiness. That's all.
그래서 되네 가서 그래 준주 다대 잔대벽에 동반일이야 그러봐 냠바샤 될라야 다지 동일은 냠바샤 스네면도 어디 돈이 겁네 야람 검야 될라야 아니 가 저부처럼 깔래 자고로 봐 어디 깔래 자고야 돼 가르치네 깔래 자기 요래 야 가르치서는다 코로바 될라 데비나 코로바 되나라다 동해지다 강해지마도 면도 될라야 타르바토바 지기 인스네르와 이 중되게 규규네 아니 개발라 야지 축충부 연구여자 아니 준주에 될야 아니 내가 좀 얘라 신들봐 내가 좀 얘라 준주 개발로 되게
Diligence. So third the third factor is what is called or the third factor or the limbs, I would say, is diligence. Diligence is that delight in virtues, being assiduous in undertaking what is right and undertaking what is right and avoiding what is wrong in accordance with the path. In other words, so one is delightfully or assiduously engaging on the path in order to uh, adopt what is right and avoid what is wrong by knowing that how painful it is if one remains in the samsaric existence. By knowing that by remaining in a samsaric existence as a samsaric being, how much suffering that one would undergo. And by seeing the unceasing suffering that beings in the samsaric existence are undergoing, one generates a strong sense of having strong desire or the strong aspiration to free oneself from this cyclic existence. Then one delightfully or assiduously engaging in the practice, what is undertaking what is right and avoiding what is wrong. That's all.
어떤 대답하기 동반이 또바디 동반이디 일을 제바 되게 안에 녀모바 좀 내되는 녀모발에 되베 안에 지 가서 그래 녀모방배 방바도서 토비아도서 셈라 대원도 안에 셈라 가와질레온 거와 다 동반이 좀 고미야로 쪼바지다 가와질레온 거와 어디 편견이 야라 동반이 응원도 제네 안에 동반이 무슨도 또네 가리 연구됐으나 녀모방네 되는 녀모보다 제와 토보야 될야 안에 가와지와 될야 편향이 예라 가와스네.
So then the next is the joy. The next branch is the joy. Joy happens when one knows that one has attained what need to be attained, the attainment that is need to be attained on the path of seeing, and abandon what needs to be abandoned on the path of seeing. By seeing that, one will have such a joyful experience that you have gained the cessation from the cessation as a result of abandoning the obscuration of the path of seeing. With this, you have such a joyful experiences, and or mental happiness upon seeing the attainment of the path, attainment of the quality that is being free from the obscuration of the path of seeing is what is called joy. That's all.
아니 다디 가도라야 실란이 톱도디 잠발라야 르 신장게 대화다 심 신장게 대화 톱사르와 르 신장게 대화다 심 신장게 대화니가 톱사도 잠발라야 아니 르델야 가서 그래 지단 갈래 가야다 지 텐데 매이 서와 지 안에 칼라든데 시라 마세나나고 저거도야 매죠 베야 보시우지 자기 유서와 류신장게 대화도 도도 심신장게 대화도 도도 잠발야 안에 셈데 베데지 코랑 검지 잡제 다가 가서 그래 찌직을 샤나 양 코란 다가 되게 양고 유를 지워 전에 지워 배식 전부 쉬우지 지기 되게 당 알아서 배디 지 가서 그래 류제 장상게 미드族 류게 가르를 제제리지도 어디나 시스템들라야 심 신장지 도수나나 아니 류심니가 내가 가르치고 그래지기 여보 쉬우지 장어서 와 근데 인도 점발라야 아니 관계 녀몽바 민교베 관계 녀몽바 민교베 아니 예라 알바 녀몽바 민교바 수디 류데라 깔레 가야 민교 셈데라 바잉도야다 근데 민교 인자 아니 관계 녀몽바 민교베 아니 류심 신장기 데라야 아니 가서 그래 신도 자외 예라 스네 신장기 예라 스네.
So the next is the branch, what is called the branch of suppleness, the suppleness of body and mind. And also one could also say the flexibility of body and mind, in other words, because the suppleness or the flexibility in which the mind and body functions properly without putting in effort. It effortlessly, the mind and body can be function effortlessly, and whatever activities of the body and mind doesn't require any efforts. For instance, one can, as a result of gaining this body suppleness of body, one will not feel hungry as we normally do. Even without eating, one can stay for a very long period of time without eating foods and so forth. And then you will not really have this, one will not feel tiredness of exhaustion, bodily exhaustion and so forth. As a result of attaining Sem Shinjang, which means the mental suppleness or the mental flexibility, if one engages in the meditation for concentration on the, single pointed meditation, one can do so for the very long period of time, not just a couple of hours, but a very long period of times without, having any distractions of mental distractions. Not only that, but also if one undergo critical analysis of things and event, and one can analyze precisely, perfectly without putting in much effort. So these are the result. These are the result of achieving, the suppleness of the body and mind.
어디지? 다들 대 관계 안에 관계 뉴모 보면 유배 아니 신장기 연라제 관계 뉴모 보면 유배 연라 신장체로 와. 다 대어디 강도 뉴모 보면 유배 딩이진지 연라서로 와. 단지디 관계 뉴모 보면 유배스디 다 배지 셈 데라양 파주 인도야 딩기로 하는 류디 대체 다 단대디 강도 군의 뉴모 보면 유배 연라 딩이진지 강국군의 유목범의 유배연라 띵이 진시야데 셈데 봐 셈데 유목의 왕라 마다 가서 그래 거바라바 유목의 왕도 거바라바 유목의 왕도 야 안에 면도야게 단지게 되 거바 단지게 되 거바라바제 단지게 거바 참어 거바데라 거바니와 셈바 쇼도야데라 거바라바디 수다티로라 소바디 바르 데라바 쇼도야데라 거바라바체 다 거바 참모데 아니 치 수다라 소바 마쇼나나 아니 난게 녀모 지 되자시다 텐데왕라 쇼도야데 거바 참모이바 어디 다 강도 끈의 녀모범의 주베 띵이진이 연라스디 띵이진라 지지도 네버 데디 점발야 아니 거바 참모 아니 녀모바 되자시다로 소베 왕라 두그마레스 데 멘도바 손자 아니 강도 끈의 녀모범의 주베 연라 띵이진이스네 네데 세버레 정세기나
Pseudo.
나스
So the next is the concentration, right? Concentration or the thing is in independent. So this concentration is what is known as the concentration free from the subtle mental agitations. Of course, there's no, gross mental agitations. The gross mental agitations are the are that one is unable to bring under the control. One is unable to control one's own sense consciousness, such as sight, sound, smell, taste, and so forth. One is unable to control those, five senses, and then one is actually chasing after those five senses and having attachment towards those five sense objects and so forth, are said to be the gross level of mental agitations. So this is not there, but there is still possibility of having the subtle level of mental agitations. It's a subtle level of mental agitations are the inner, obstacles such as hatred, anger, jealousy, and so forth. And so if one is able to attain this level of concentrations, at the perfect level of concentrations, one will be free from those mental agitations, the both gross level and then as well as the subtle levels of mental agitations, which is the sixth branch that one will be attained when one is on the path of seeing. That's all.
That's tante di imbala
Thing is it.
tingi zindi che
No.
nedu dube yenla sinirwa nedu dube yenla sidi zambala ya ane kune nyumomba mebe ta dirida ta dida ma lo mo cherwa ta dendabe ki ngo ane chingwa do goba niga meba ke ki tila degi tila ya ta sem nema derwa tingi zin nema derwa tila ya tangyum ji yenla serwa tangyum ko gobe wangla ma sho chingwe wangla ma sho ba ki tila takda tila le nedu dube yenla ane tangyum 어디 어디 뒤인들 봐. 다 땅념체 칭와다 거바 니가 그거는 마셔봐. 길어도 받들라 땅념체. 어다 단다 이내네 전반에 이제 땅념 파기 최 뒤인데 다 통랑라야 매도 매로에 다 배지 통랑 그런 값이 나되기도 다 같이 통랑해라야 전랑 최저 진본에 참고해야 되지. 도와디나라 다들 어딘데 인도 좀 발라야 다 뒤인데 아니 가서 그래. 통랑 토지기 좀 매도 매로와지 어디들이 샤스
So the last one is equanimity. Equanimity, or one can also say evenness, in which the mind enters the natural state, the free from like condition of lack of clarity and wildness. So, in other words, evenness, he refers to the one is free from both mental dullness and mental agitations. One's mind is not remaining under the control of mental agitation and mental dullness, isn't it? Normally, as for us, when we are engaging in meditation or concentrations, the most obstacles or epidemic that we normally face, the obstacle that we normally face is mental dullness and mental agitations. But when on the path of seeing, when one is able to achieve this evenness or the equanimity on the path of seeing, one's concentration is free from this mental dullness and mental agitations. So these seven are what we call the elements of the path of seeing, the essence of enlightenment. They will make one accumulate or accomplish the positive actions and help one attain nirvana. That's all.
어디들 손들 담발라야 아니 텐데 인도 좀발이야 당가서 지당 낭배 흉내 시 낭배 흉내 지 담아 송버게 남태서 제비나 다지 수수기 녀몽 녀모 도숨라 소바다 대조 매버 소고 주나 안에 남태서다 대조 베디지 가서 그래 랑라 마톰나나 아니 님 가서 그래 소남네야 ছেনে 남대도 림바신도 마드로나나 아니 랑게 생긴 다 수수 규기 녀모데 매바 소두고 말해서봐 녀모도 매바 소마톰나나 아니 녀모 왕기야 레 상에 가리나 사네 아니 코발로 코데바 된데 용거 요레스
So now, our main purpose of engaging in the practice in learning the Dharma is to identify those three poisons of our mind. And these three poisons of the mind must be eliminated by engaging in the practice and entering into the path, entering into the path in orderly manner, beginning from path of accumulations, path of preparation, and so forth. Because without going through those, paths, without entering into those paths, one will not be able to eradicate our negative thoughts and emotions. If one is unable to, eradicate our negative thoughts and emotions, and one will then engage in all kind of actions of the body, speech, and mind derived from negative thoughts and emotions, which enables one to accumulate negative karma, which then, propel our rebirth within this unenlightened existence or samsaric existence.
tindeje tene tende idu ani ta 가서 그래 semyarje tangya dang ani semyarje tanggo chuna khandes tangda shengo ba je shengo ba yinzang ani tadi lobjon chene ma do shengo marwa tinde indin zambala ya ani shungla lobjon che ani shungla lobjon che ne shungin na la ani 지 가서 그래 묘모 지금 나랑서 커버 커야 돼 가르쳐도 커버로 거기에 가르쳐도 아니 교 가르려 때는 그러기도 대저를 코베 잡아대 가와도 대바신 받지 대 신의 대 매바 간데 속고도 대저신 받지야 돼 개천 버렸어.
So it is through engaging in a practice and understanding of one's dharma, one should, develop one's virtuous state of mind, and one should make a progression of one's virtuous state of mind. And then when speaking about developing or enhancing one's virtuous state of mind, one should know how to enhance and develop one's virtuous state of mind, right? So in order to know how to develop one's virtuous state of mind, so to enhance one's virtuous state of mind, one should study and contemplate and meditate upon. So it is for this purpose we're taking our time and studying and meditating, contemplating and meditating. That's all.
어딘데스 되네 다 콘서 사바니도 다 콘서로 다지 이기 말에 그런다 티바 예배스 깨져지르지다.
So any questions you have?
I'll ask a question, Geshe-la. It's pretty, it seems to me that it would be very clear that one had generated bodhicitta, but uncontrived mind that wishes enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. That is when it becomes uncontrived. Is there a way of knowing prior to reaching the path of seeing that one has stabilized a generic understanding of emptiness? How would one know this? I'm not suggesting that I'm at that point yet, but how would one know that?
Okay. Before generating bodhicitta, that's what you said?
Well, I'm just comparing it to, knowing that one has generated genuine bodhicitta, that one would know that would be very apparent. A contrived bodhicitta would be obvious to the mind, but how would one know, short of being on the path of seeing and seeing emptiness directly, that one had generated a stable generic image of emptiness?
That 전주 쌤 걔네 안에 소소야 동반이기 때 다간다 전주 측이 동반이 전주 측이 다 동반이 하고 해줘 봐스 전주 측이 동반이 또 해줘 봐 다간다 제바 쌤이 동반이 즉다 가연들 된 동반이 고아차 해줘 봐스
아,
동반이 고아차 잡아 대 동반이 될이야다 제주도 내야지 그도 용 그래서 대 동반이 강 동반이 다 소소 고아 예배 동반이 대 제주도 내야 되지 용 거, 그래서 그 제주도 내야 되지 동반이 what happened? Hello? Jeff, can la?
Nima, we're trying to get Geshe-la back. We dropped him.
한 동반이 강리야 다 세직도 냠벌 샤베 다직 연den스네면도 제주도 냠벌 샤베 아니 직 로지 상주리 계속 사베 뒤지 컨디션 그래서 세 컨디션 하고 그랬어요. 근데 진짜로 세브라면 돼.
알았어. 다 가서 그래. 지난 동반이
그래,
동백이
교교
가서
시도다.
라,
교교 시도다.
껴줘도 라. 알래. 다한테 간대 차이.
근데 차이나. 얘야 개워야 되게 좋아하긴.
알았어.
라고 텐데긴 됩시다. 게임도 담아지 것도 고도. 때 맞아야 돼. 걔라 재밌어 보여.
근데 카와지를 상에 대 파세 샤이 봐. 아니 된대 차렸어.
알았어, 알았어.
지난 내제 대알레원데다 르시 시장게 대화다 더 야토본데다 아니 수수수수 하고 그러와. 말해.
나서
시장게 대화도 좋고 안에 되네 다 동반 얘기 다 돈이 무슨 또왜 카드도 받아 안 수수수수게 다 된대 전에 하고 그러와.
그래서
이나야 돈이 당보 도게게 가사되게 아니 동반이 내 또송 된대지 동시야 돼 칸에 말 라투야 돼 갈래 가보 있어래.
So in the beginning, when you are having an intellectual understanding of emptiness, which then leads to an inferential understanding of emptiness. In other words, one's ascertainment to emptiness of when one gains as the, inferential cognition of emptiness. And one may not be able to express the experience that one have, and one may not be able to, actually put in a word. One may not be able to put into the word of one's experience, or even to identifying that it's not that, easy in the beginning. But when one go through this practice of, continuous practice, and as a result of one's continuous practice in emptiness, when one finally gains the, mental and, physical suppleness, on the basis of attaining the mental and physical suppleness, one then, continually engaging in meditation on emptiness, which then eventually lead oneself to the ascertainment of ascertainment of wisdom, or the it is a non-conceptual wisdom which ascertained emptiness. At that moment, then one will be able to identify, one will understand that one's very understanding of emptiness is not something that is through generic image, but one's understanding of emptiness is something that is so, intuitive. And you're actually seeing a nakedly, the emptiness at nakedly, just as we see the form and so forth through one's eye consciousness and so on.
So I asked the question in the context of Geshe-la's introduction to the path of seeing, where he said that there can be a generic understanding of emptiness before you even reach the path of seeing.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if he meant that there was some sort of a stable understanding on a generic level. But what I hear you saying, Geshe-la, is, well, it becomes stable when you develop meditative suppleness and stability. And at that point, you can directly see emptiness as clearly as any object that your senses perceive.
Is this a question or?
No, just an explanation of where the question came from. Did you get it?
Okay, can you repeat once again, please?
Okay, so I asked the question based on Geshe-la's introduction to the path of seeing, where he said you could have a generic understanding of emptiness before you reach the path of seeing. And I wanted to make sure that I wanted to know whether he meant that meant that you can have a stable generic image of emptiness before you can see it directly. And his answer seems to be it takes meditative stability and concentration to see emptiness. And at that point, you are on the path of seeing and you see emptiness directly. And then it is stable and clear, just like any sense object.
The Quran and the Gela Masung did the Quran Goyalia Quran Gacho, the Quran Yachik Sembenalia. The king and the Tisha Nam Telia go Goyachura, the Quran Godan did this good service, the beginning at the sheriff Nung Dora. There is independent Tonamlia Mashubi Golia, and this is a Dunjitsu top, Tony Dunjitsu top Loshi was. What Dunjitsu top Lodi for Jebak Sema, the conduct called Jebak Sema, Tobas, as if to Kona, Mendo. It's Toba Chatter was. There's a the Tende Jebak Sema, Tony Tobi Jebak Sema Lodi, that would begin because Nyamia may have to Tembu's theatre was called Nyamgumar was. Tembu's Tegro, Tembu Tebi King, any the that Tony Dunjitsu you tobe. You want get any Suzuaji that don't want nearly a Yam Seju Yamba Shaje, Gom Kiki and Kalikari Chen, that found that Lusum Senjang Devato. Then it Lusum Senjang Devato Savi Shugolia and Namjiki say and Suzu don't you over low, one some dish. Don't you want to be shed a rule around you cake was. But this is this one was the date of the Olam Tobi Sungur was. This is that's right. Yeah.
Tayina, Dezo Kaletos Majava Samaresva. Penangazula Chashavi Nada, Tombani Toya, Surab to Zuda, Surabe, Chembo to Zulaya, 공부라 세다 도솔라야 수수 진이 마트나 공부 타상게 대 아니 수수기기 대 대대체 마체란체 동네 안 로좀 숙청부 제로 왔어 다이나 검자가 될라야 도스 댕가는 되는 검자야 될라 아니 대기스 매장 단다서 검스 자마도 발하데레스
So, however, it requires a lot of efforts and studies and contemplations. And for us, being in the monastery, we were, even though for instance, myself, even though I may not interested in going through all those rigorous, studies, and the study that I have done is not very assiduous, but we were forced to study all those texts, very profound texts, vast and profound texts on emptiness, such as Gompa Rapso by Lama Tsongkhapa, which is the middle way understanding of Madhyamaka's understanding of explanation of Madhyamaka's understanding of Madhyamaka's understanding of emptiness, which is clear thought. In other words, clear thoughts of emptiness. That the text is very vast and profound, and we were forced to study that. But then, although we have studied under the force of our teacher and so forth, but we have not been able to, for instance, I wouldn't say we, but I myself has not been able to meditate on this for a very long time, and I haven't been taking this meditation. So therefore, I have zero ascertainment of emptiness at this point.
More questions?
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Oh.
A different. Oh, you have a question? Go ahead. You use the word force of your teachers making you learn text. When I hear concentration and attainment, I think force, which won't work. What replaces the force to that attainment without forceful concentration?
딘센세
Yeah, go into Chedu again. I can't hear you clearly. It's
Yeah. Okay.
So my question is, mentioned forced being forced to read the text, to learn the text. When I hear concentration and attainment, I think of me needing to use force. What can replace, or what else is used instead of my force for the idea of concentration?
센세게.
세우치라 공문을 당에도 그냥 쉬자고 봐.
나스.
근데 비게 소소 근데 개인이 차비세야 되게 대체상 소소다 소소 돈이 땅이 맞되네. 이게 이까다지도 때브레 송고로 봤어. 대지를 거지 직직들에서 대한 차비세야지 득송고를 때네. 당한서 콘서트 단데 인지 돌려 concentration 세셔래. 단데 간서 디게젤이야 concentration 세야 돼. concentration 세겐데 대식데 연구면도 우치다네 다 계규 많지야 돼 concentration 디게 concentration 럽디 갈래 시위치 우주 겸베 소소도 갈래 겸지 갈래 시위 겸마도 대대비 소리 통도 거로 봐 concentration 세디 갈래
아네.
근데 지어래 다 배직 배 세직도 배 갈래 시위치 겸지도 강에 시위치 가서 직 셈리아 가서 다배 너슈 시위치 되지마도 배네직 미야 비게 소소야 직 예버담베 소르 쇼로바다 예버담지 직베 파즈 굿 마초레 소르 쇼로바 딘데 직게 근데 고아 딘데 질레 지어라 콘수디한테 딩에지 생인데 컨스티튜션 디딱 얘기면도 디 인지나 이네 딱 기규 만체 디 게임 비슷한데도 봐
알레스.
디 Teacher, the Tinde Gitone, any chicken, the Dumde Koge attainment Serigalia. Tinde Ta Kanza Luingo, Tinde Chikan Nebe Tone, any chick, Susu chick, Dubje, Dugur Sere, chick, the Kaku Shiver was taken in as Sundo.
대 가서 그래. 다디 나족이 지당 나조다 배바성 말에 나족을 도단 다가라 봐. 다 나졸라야 다지 다 잡아 나조 로쇼쇼이 베까라야. 아니 로브존라 도나 다가제 요 말봐. 로션 다지 충에 가도 봐. 아니 제모다 딘데를 도나 제버 마도지기. 다디 갑라가 등산나시 취지 딘데다 요 말도 이나야 제모다 지 딘데를 아니 로브존라 요 칸투도 지기로 봐. 딘데 인도 잠발라야지 다 개개인다 도족이 잠쭉 딘데 가유 진유체 아니 콤바타상게 로브존 치야라 팅딜럼 서샤바 다가 랑기가 딩기 아니 단다 다 소소라 로브존지 자대 요로다 대중대 요로 다가랑기 지 죽주 다야다 딘데 체네 파스네 다 대가딩기 다 로조 마체나 죽주 지고로 봐 어디 가딩기 다 다가랑 로브존데 자대 요로다 딘데 레스로 봐
The first of all, that the reason why I said the force to study tax is because as a young person, we are more happy to play than, engaging in studying tax and so forth. And then we need a skilled teacher who actually, who actually advise or who actually tell us to study. And it's also very important, not only just that's important, but also every year or we have in the monastery, we have annual examinations. So we need to pass that annual examinations. Without studying, and we will not be able to pass our examinations. So without having a skilled teacher who teaches us and who tells us to study, there's no way that we can pass the examinations. So this is that. Okay.
어딘데 인데 좀 발이야 배는 나랑도 차샤비나 아니 다가 등선 등뒤기 시연들이 지간 장료매 아니 지다 인지 이게 더버던데 이나다 인지 가믹데 마 권의 고서 신경 매서와 이나도 졸라 교바스 케메 두서와 이나야 나랑기 등상기 지 남베기 슝토도 지 된데기 띵사보다 럽자상보 자침부 된데 유버신데 니만 나랑게 럽존 지야데 단다 깔레시라 잠면도 되게 베마시 깔레토즈 자투 유나 섬제 단달라 나랑지 된데기 되바마칸 바 연구도스
Although at this point for myself, when I was young, in other words, I haven't been able to go to the regular school where you gain this, knowledge, the modern knowledge, in other words. And I have not been able to study the other languages and so on and so forth. For instance, I don't even, read alphabets in English alphabet, A, B, C, D, all the way to the end. I may not be able to do it. However, I have no regret about that. I have not even a slightest regret regarding that knowledge that I don't have. But the one thing that I have regretted it is that right from the beginning of my study of this text, the Dharma text, when I was very young, the study that I have carried on was based on intellectual understanding, the intellectual exercise. I haven't been able to, really to contemplate. I haven't been contemplative enough of, what I have studied earlier. And that I have a little bit of regret.
알아서 안다가 샤이스
So we'll stop here with this.
Okay, we should say the dedication prayers, beginning on page 23 and 24, and then continue with auspicious wishes on page 20. Dagi Jine
Sobe
Sabi
Jewa
Giva
Din
Di
Teta
Teta
Ruwa
Rova
Guna
Guna
Gambenda
Gamenda
Tebara
Keva
Jizu
Jisu
Lo
Losan
San
Tabari
Tabari Tembe
Tembe
Nyingbo
Nyimbo
Rindu
Rindu
Seji
Seji
Shu
Saji
Pöji
Puji
Joshi
Joshi
Medo Da
Medoda
Jira Linji
Nini
Nindi
Nini
Jimba De
Jimbadi Sangi
Jindo
Jindo
Mingde
Mende
Bewayi
Bawayi
Chugu Namda
Namda
Shinla
Shinla
Jubara
Jubara
Shu
Kewa Kundu
Yanda
Yanda
Lama
Lama
Dan
Dan
Cheme
Cheme
Chuji
Chuji
Bela
Bela
Longzuje
Longzuje
Sadan Lamji Yonde Rabzone
Zone
Doji Changi Goban Yurdo Shu
Yenam Guru
Rena
Vataya
Mendela Gane Yada Yami
Chetsunami
Uze
Kutsu
Radinje
Tenche
Naga
Naga
Tile
Tile
Chojuro
Chujuru
Devada
Devada
Losan
Losa
Dembe
Tembe
Dreme
Drame
Sasumji
Sasumji
Drove Mese Tadu Ne Guruji
Kari Rawe
Korbe
Korbe
Shingam
Shingam
Su
Su
Pena
Pena
Dewa
Dewa
Malu
Malu
Jamene
Jamene
Jere
Jere
Sewa
Sewa
Tinzi
Tenzin
Jazuyi
Yazuyi
Shabe
Shabe
Side
Side
Badu
Badu
Den
Tenguruji
Guruji
Champel Pavu
Chidra
Jidra
Kemba
Kemba
Dan Kundu Sambo Teya Dijinde Teda Gunji Jesu Daluji Kewa Teda Tamje Rabdu Kyawa Tamje Gi Ngowa Kala Chodo Ngabade Dashin Gebe Tawa Digunya Sambo Chuji Rabdu Ngwara Gi